with you.
And also with you.
I see the world pass by my window. All sorts of people. Some I know, and others I do not know. How often I sum up their lives, the lives of others, based on the clothes they wear, the way they walk, the color of their skin, the way they wear their hair. I judge and I critique based on the jobs they do. The last thing I heard, the politicians I assume they vote for. I make assumptions, imagining their circumstance from my position on this side of the window.
I look more closely and I see shoulders stooped with care. I see faces lined with worry. I see people doing the best they can with what they have. Or I see joy and lightness, the offering of self and story, and I realize each person has a story to tell. I look even more closely, and I see a common humanity and the spirit within that connects us to one another. I want the window in my heart to fling wide open so I can know more deeply the connection we share. May the windows in our hearts be opened wide with God's love. May we listen with compassion to the stories that remind us we all matter. May we know more deeply the connection we share, and may we affirm the holiness within all of us.
Dear beloved people of God, hear this good news. God's enduring love is a vast ocean. It is for all. It is for your enemy and your neighbor, for the stranger. It is for you. The Spirit goes where it will. God's life blows through our old ways of judgment. It reconnects us to the sacred ground of our being. It unites and it heals us. May we live as one and be at peace with each other. Amen. Be kind to one another, beloved, tender-hearted and gentle, forgiving as God has forgiven us. The peace of Christ be with you all.
And also with you.
Take a moment to share some signs of peace.
I'm reading from Joel, chapter 2. O children of God, Zion, be glad and rejoice in the Lord your God, for he has given the early rain for your vindication. He has poured down for you abundant rain, the early and the later rain as before. The threshing floors shall be full of grain, the vats shall overflow with wine and oil. I will repay you for the years that the swarming locust has eaten, the hopper, the destroyer, and the cutter, my great army, which I sent against you. You shall eat in plenty and be satisfied, and praise the name of the Lord your God, who has dealt wondrously with you. And my people shall never again be put to shame. You shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I, the Lord, am your God, and there is no other. And my people shall never again be put to shame. Then afterward I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. Even in the male and female slaves in those days, I will pour out my spirit. Holy wisdom, holy word. Thanks be to God.
A reading from 2 Timothy. As for me, I am already being poured out as a libation, and the time of my departure has come. I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith. From now on there is reserved for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. At my first offense, no one came to my support, but all deserted me. May it not be counted against them. But the Lord stood by me and gave me strength, so that through me the message might be fully proclaimed, and all the Gentiles might hear it. So I was rescued from the lion's mouth, and the Lord will rescue me from every evil attack, and save me for his heavenly kingdom. To him be the glory forever and ever. Amen. Holy wisdom, holy word.
And a reading from the Gospel of Luke. Jesus also told this parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and regarded others with contempt. 2 men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee, standing by himself, was praying thus: God, I thank you that I am not like other people, thieves, rogues, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give 1/10 of all my income. But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even look up to the heavens, but was beating his breast and saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to his home justified rather than the other. For those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Holy wisdom, holy word. Thanks be to God. Do you have a picture on your worship aid? Do you see it? It's going to be up here in a minute. There it is. I love this painting. Julie Kay chose it. Julie Kay has a knack for choosing the best paintings. You'll see from your worship aid that it's by Frank Wesley, an artist whose paintings are influenced by some styles from India, his country of origin. I think it's just perfect for today. It's beautiful to look at, wonderful colours and symmetry, and it's perfect in the way that it can help us think about what Jesus in our parable today from Luke has to say about perfection and our striving for it. So I'm wondering what you notice about this picture. Who are these people? Start there. It's the easy part. Who are they? Yeah. Which is which? Right? The guy on the top, he's the one who's praying loudly, right? I thank you, God, that I am not like others. He says, I keep the law, I'm so much better, so much closer than those sinners, especially this one down here. And the one at the bottom, he's the other guy, right? The one who beats his chest and asks for God's mercy. Be merciful to me, O God, a sinner, he's saying. What else do you notice in this painting? In the people and how they're placed? What do you see? There are no wrong answers here. This is not a test. It's art. You can say whatever you want. You can say, I'd really like that blue. It's fine. I do too. One's on his knees, yeah, and he's looking down the way, right? And the other one's looking up and away. So they're looking away from each other. Do you see that? They're positioned away from each other. Almost at the same angle. There's kind of this really cool symmetry about that. I noticed that too. They're separated, not connected. Except apart, maybe by some negative feelings. The one down on the bottom, he knows he's a sinner. I wonder how he feels about that other person. How do you think he feels about that other person? Again. Lower, yeah. Anything else?
He may not even be aware of it. He's so into it.
He might not be, Julie Gay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he may not. You're totally right. Maybe it's me. I think he's probably a little resentful. But that's maybe a reflect. Isn't it the case that art reflects back how we feel, right? I'm thinking there's some negative feelings there, right? Like, oh, that guy's on top and I'm down here. Do you notice from the painting, this is the cool thing I really like, that they're boxed in? Both of them, right? They're boxed in. Do you see that? They're trapped, I think. The one on the bottom for sure. In fact, in that tight little space, all those bricks are kind of sitting on his shoulders. He's carrying the weight of the world, that guy. Look at him. Just crunched in there. But also the one on top. He looks freer, but he's encased too. Do you see that? I think he looks like he's encased by that. It looks almost religious. More grand, more flourish, but still encased, still trapped. And which one of those is righteous in God's eyes? The one on the bottom? The one who knows he's a sinner, the humble one? Now here's a question. Do you think he knows he's justified in God's eyes? Right there in that moment? I don't think so. I just don't think so at all. It kind of gives me the shivers actually to say that out loud. I don't think he knows that he's already perfect. This person up here is justifying himself, but God is justifying the one on the bottom, and I just don't think he knows it. I think at this point in the story, he's very much buying into the lie that the top guy has already purchased and flaunting. This lie that perfection is possible, and perfection will get you closer to God, better than the rest. The text tells us that this parable has a particular audience in mind. It was aimed at those who trusted in themselves, those who understood themselves to be justified, righteous before God, and who from this trust in their own righteousness treated others with contempt. Jesus is telling this audience, is directing them away from such behavior and towards humility. I know you're not going to believe it, he says, but this little guy, it's the little guy that is in right relationship with God. Jesus is painting a picture like this one to say to those who act more like the men on top that they need to show some humility. Show up as people who know that God is God and they are not. You will not get to God's peace, he is telling them, acting like you are perfect. And from this self-aggrandizing perfection, dismissing others, treating them with contempt, you will not get to God's peace, Jesus is telling us, in the way he lived and the way he died and rose, through performing your righteousness, through somehow thinking you can keep every law as if you could, and through positioning yourself so that everyone knows how much better that you are than the next person. That road does not lead to peace. But we know this. We know this, don't we? We know there is no peace, no rest, and having to always be right. That way is as exhausting as it is impossible. I also think there is no rest, no peace in the way of this person who is beating his chest. I mentioned already, I don't think he knows that he's right with God, already perfect in all of his imperfections, because God is God and God has chosen God's people. If he did, this picture would look very different. If this person really knew and trusted that God already saw him as whole and good and righteous in God's eyes, despite all the ways he messes up, then what? He would not be crouched, ashamed, entrapped. If this person really knew that God sees all his imperfections and loves him wholly, completely, still, he would maintain his humility if he knew that. But it would be coupled with this thankfulness, don't you think? A thankfulness that would cause him to rise up and turn himself maybe towards the other, towards the world, away from that little box. If they both of them, could know that they were already everything they needed to be, what then might be possible? Oh my goodness, what could be possible then? Grandstanding and shame would be no more, and what a glorious picture we might see instead. Now, I told you already that Julie Kay has a knack for choosing the best pictures. Here's another one that I love. I love this picture. That's my study wall. It's been hanging there since Maundy Thursday. It hangs above my computer screens in my study because it reminds me what it's like, I think, when we operate out of the knowledge that we are already perfect, already justified, already right with God, thanks to God's movement towards us, thanks to God's movement in Jesus. Even in all of the imperfections that we have and that our stories hold, what do you see in this picture? Connection. What else? Support. Love. It could be anybody. It could be anybody. There's intimacy. There are no walls. There's expansiveness, it's not closed in. There's listening deeply, I think, present to each other and what they carry, facing an open world together, facing God's awe-inspiring world together. They're at the ocean. The particular stories of these two are there in that relationship with each other. They are somebody. Who they are and all they bring is informing what they share and what they see separately and together, but they could be anybody. We do not know who they are. We don't get to claim these two as necessarily being just like us. We don't get to do that and in the process exclude others. These two could be and are. They are of any faith, any race, any sexuality, any gender, any age. I think they're young, in my impression, because of the way they're wearing their hoodies, but I don't know for sure. That could be any age, any socio-economic status, and I love that. This is a picture of God's perfection present in every being, every story in all of its particularities, present in us and in all others if we would just realize it, remember it. What a glorious thing, so much better. Now I want, if it's okay with you, well I'm going to anyway, I'm up here, but I want to tell you a little bit about a project that I'm working on at Seattle Presbytery, because I think in this project we are starting to see the liberation, the glorious picture that becomes possible as we give up as the church on the idea that we have to be perfect, have to have all of the right answers all the time, have to be better than the other guy. I'm working on this project called the Thriving Congregations Initiative. It's an initiative that's intended to help congregations learn what thriving looks like in their time and place, in their community. It's intended to not do that for congregations, but equip congregations with a learning approach, with some tools that might allow them to keep learning, keep adapting, keep being open and expansive to their communities so that they can keep thriving, keep showing up as agents of God's love and hospitality, even as times change and as we move into the future. Now, this initiative is based in a research method called participatory action. Sounds fancy, but it's not. Participatory action, anyone can do it, and that is in fact the whole point. Participatory action works out of the claim that between us, amongst us, in community together, we hold critical knowledge. Valuable and real knowledge. We hold knowledge of what our lives are like, together, apart, between us. We hold knowledge, real knowledge, of what gets in the way of our thriving. We hold knowledge in our communities of what peace looks like in our own contexts. Participatory action stands on the trust that as communities work through and name their shared knowledge together, as they claim their shared hopes, and as they reach out to find the resources they need based on their knowledge and hopes, they can move forward towards their, and I would say towards God's visions and dreams of peace. Researchers or facilitators of this method are necessarily part of the community, or they do their very best to become part of the community, build trust, enter in over time. They bring some expertise in hosting and naming, helping to name the knowledge, and they bring the capacity to connect the dots with people and to connect with resources and support, but the knowledge and the projects that emerge always belong to the community. Too often researchers have come in, taken knowledge out, gone on and did their thing and left the community behind. The researcher or the facilitator in this method does not own the knowledge, must not take it away or use it without the participation of the community. Anything else would be exploitation of a commodity that they do not own. The knowledge that comes from this type of being belongs to the community and is for the benefit of the community. This feels like gospel to me. Feels like honouring all of God, the God-given integrity, gifts and drive for peace in others. Congregations are part of communities. We exist in time and place. We do not exist in a vacuum, and we are especially equipped to be the facilitators, researchers, if you like, of participatory action. We are especially equipped to move in ways that build trust and that host conversation. We gather around a table that does not belong to us. This table can invite community conversation. Congregations are especially equipped. We are, as a people, called to trust in the goodness and the provision of God, to host the kind of tables that can help a community name and share and build on its knowledge. The Spirit of God blows through this world and is inviting us to be fully part of our communities. There is a knowledge out there about what peace, real thriving looks like in this time and place. Our neighbours will tell us if we show up with humility and curiosity, if we work to build trust, if we learn to set a table that invites and honours the gifts of others. The kingdom is already here. There are young ones who see visions, old ones in here, out there, who dream dreams, and neighbours on the underside of oppressive systems who can and who are prophesying about what is getting in the way of flourishing for all. We as congregations have a call to go join them and to learn from them and to be in conversation about the best way forward, the best way to peace. Now, the reason I'm telling you about this, because it's cool, I think, and we're all invited into it, but the reason I'm telling you about it is that we have found, as we make our way through this initiative, exploring with congregations what it looks like to show up as learners in and with community, many congregations are reporting to us that there is a liberation that they are experiencing. A liberation. There is a liberation, a freedom that comes with realizing that our job as congregations, as congregational leaders and as congregational members, might not be to be perfect. Thanks be to God. Might not be to design programs all by ourselves without community conversation, or worry about having just the right gathering, just the right building, or resources that can answer questions that we don't even know if the community are asking. There's a liberation that comes with not buying into the idea that we have to have all the right answers for every question already worked out. There is a liberation in hosting the conversation and waiting for the Spirit to show up in unexpected places. There is a liberation from remembering that God is God, we are not, and the Spirit will come. There is a liberation in showing up with curiosity, with our own stories and vulnerabilities, with our own hopes and loves, not leaving them behind, but bringing them with us to listen and to learn from the loves and the hopes of others. There is a liberation in this place, beloved. Do you see it? There's a liberation here. That doesn't mean it's not hard work. And this way, well, it can be uncertain and frustrating and frightening at times. It takes work and practice to remember when we're in this place, individually and together, that we must always reject the lies that are coming up to us that tell us we have to be perfect. Always. They will keep coming. It takes work and practice to remember who we are every time we feel vulnerable and scared and want to beat our chests or try to be the hero. But it is good work. And the practices of the church, this gathering, equip us for this type of work. And it is where our liberation lies. Liberation for ourselves and for the world that God so loves. So, beloved, be at peace. You are already perfect. You are already perfect. Know that. Know that God sees you and loves you completely as you are. You don't have to do anything, nothing to prove. And from that place, turn to your neighbour with humility and give yourself to the God-given dream of your community for a future where all can thrive. Amen.
Love is little, love is low, love will make our spirit grow, grow in peace, grow in light, love will do a thing that's right. Love is little, love is low, love will make our spirit grow, grow in peace, grow in light, love will do the thing that's right. Love is little, love is low, love will make our spirit grow, grow in peace, grow in light, love will do the thing that's right.
Takes a team. We're going to do something a little bit different this morning. Usually when the CJP team presents a moment for mission, it's about a particular offering or an event or an activity. This morning we're going to talk about CJP. A lot of what we do happens in the background. We present a report to session once a month, but we thought it would be interesting to share some of that future planning with you. So I'm going to do a brief introduction, then I'll turn it over to the team to finish the moment for mission. Go ahead, Richard. I wanted to start with our mission statement, or it's called a statement of purpose. This is really just a restatement of Matthew 25. I'll read it briefly. Our mission is to exercise compassion, advocate for people who seek dignity, freedom, and respect in the world, supporting actions to correct wrongs, feed the hungry, caring for the ill and disabled, and seeking common good. In support of that mission, we developed a set of goals, and I'll read each of them, but there's a couple I want to pay particular attention to. First of all is to act to make a positive difference in the world. Secondly, to increase congregational involvement in our work. Thirdly, to increase our value as learners and partners in the community, and deepen our ties to each other through service, and serve as trusted stewards of donated funds. The ones I wanted to call attention to were the second one. We're consciously looking for activities or events that actually involve people in the activity. So if you think of things like the Rent Meal Coalition, we're not just making a donation, we're actually there working with the people we're serving. Also, if you think of the Bridge Ministry Sunday celebration, we're helping the people that we serve. So one of our goals is to seek out those kind of opportunities for the congregation. The other one I want to draw attention to was the final one, to serve as trusted stewards of donated funds. Behind the scenes, this last couple of years have paid particular attention to looking at the organizations that we support and making sure that they're worthy of our donations, that the money we're asking you to donate is truly being well spent for those organizations. Richard, could you go to the next one, please? As you know, we have some what I've called ongoing CJP activities. You'll recognize that list. I put an asterisk there beside a few of them because they are examples of activities where we've consciously trying to involve the congregation in the activity. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Teresa to tell you about one of the activities that we're involved in now.
Thank you, Roger. One of the activities recently that we've been involved in is working with what we call the Olympia House, which is a house within walking distance of here that houses 5 to 6 gentlemen that have profound physical disabilities. And we've been working with them to reach out. We've done gift bags and presented things to them, given them decorations for their house. And in August, the CJP team went and threw a pizza party with them. And it was really, really fun. It was kind of low-key. We had pizza that we brought in. We set up some canopies and balloons. And we had the staff and the residents come out and sort of be appreciated. It was for both the staff and the residents. And just to spend time together, to enjoy each other, and to build more of a relationship, so it wasn't just transactional, dropping off things at the house and all that. And it was just delightful. And we got to know them a little bit better, and in particular, I think on this one slide, this was a really, really neat little surprise at the end. One of the gentlemen who had been pretty quiet the whole time, he went in the house and he came back with his violin, and he played Amazing Grace, and he played a whole bunch of stuff, and it was just beautiful. And it was just such a neat little ending to the whole thing and such a surprise. So that's one of the things we're working on. Oh, sorry. Come on out.
Good morning. I wanted to talk about the Honduras mission trip, and it's kind of near and dear to me because my son Davis went on it in 2015. He was a junior in high school, and he was taking Spanish, so this was a really cool opportunity for him to use his Spanish. St. Andrew has sponsored the mission trip in 2012, 15, and 2018, and they visit the NPH home. Like I said, Davis was a senior when he went. He really made some meaningful relationships when he went. He really enjoyed soccer with the kids and using his Spanish, and he came home and he still, to this day, he talks about it. He talks about this trip, the people he met. It's just a really positive experience for him. when he was coming back, they were in the airport, and he met somebody he was applying, there he is right there, applying to Seattle Pacific University, and he met somebody, a staff person at the airport, and he really connected with this guy. This was really random. And he fostered this relationship with this administrator, and they ended up communicating and reaching out, and Davis actually, became friends with him when he went to SPU, and it was very unexpected, but it was just kind of a neat little ending to his trip. Like I said, the trip is every 3 years. We are planning a trip for 2023 next summer. It has been postponed, obviously, due to COVID in 21. And we are going to have an after talk in January, just to talk a little bit about it for dates and things like that. So look for any information to come. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm here to talk to you about t-shirts, and you will notice that some of us have worn t-shirts. My t-shirt that says St. Andrew is actually from another congregation that I belong to and is about 30 years old, but St. Andrew is St. Andrew. You can see Teresa and Roger has one on, so we're sort of demonstrating our wares, giving you an example. Okay. This is an early example of a St. Andrew version of a t-shirt, and it's kind of in the spirit of mine, rather modest and low-key, and that's fine. I think I'm a big proponent of t-shirts. I think that it gives you sort of a sense of community. It identifies you. When you're out in the world, you get to see who you are. This is instantly can be identified. And going back, and one more, Roger, I think one more before that too. You can see, there they all are at the airport, and you can see them wearing their shirts, and you can tell who's this group. This is a great thing. And I think when you're out in the community and doing things, I think it's excellent to be able to say, those are St. Andrew people. That's kind of a thing. And it's also, you don't lose each other. It's the best thing. And here's Roger and Judy are representing us at Crop Walk. And I think, again, it's just kind of a great thing to say, St. Andrew was here. And we're Presbyterians, we're not very braggy. So as braggy as we get is to wear a t-shirt. And I think that's okay. In spirit of this, we're thinking with a new mission trip coming up, we're thinking about a new t-shirt for St. Andrew. We have some blanks where it's got a front and a back where we can design, and you are our people to be our designers, to put in some thoughts and ideas if you have one. As I say, I would recommend something a little bigger deal than this. I personally kind of love Roger's shirt where it's neon colors. It has our St. Andrew logo, and it tells you who we are on the back. But, I am not here to tell you how to design a t-shirt. So anyway, we're putting these back there on the very back table there as you walk out, sometimes where we have masks and hand sanitizers and stuff. So help yourself if you're creative and have a thought, or just think this will inspire you to be creative and have a thought. And Roger's going to wrap us up.
Sorry for the delay. I get to wear multiple hats this morning. Richard, could you go to the next slide, please? This is a very busy slide, and I'm not going to speak to the details. Some of you may recognize this from a presentation we did last spring. The CJP team was interested in better understanding the amount of money and organizations that we support. We knew our budget, and we supported, I think, 9 different organizations. But as we looked at the data, we discovered that the deacons and St. Andy's Gals, we're also supporting organizations, and then you as a congregation support organizations beyond what we have in the budget. So the total of that, this was over a 4.5-year period, was $90,000+. But what caught our attention was, and if you remember, we asked you to identify the organizations that you as a congregation support separate from the church, was another 80+ organizations. Some churches brag about the percentage of money that they have in their budget that goes to mission. You notice we don't brag about that a lot. One reason is it's a relatively small percentage, but it's our belief that the inspiration that we provide and the other ministries that St. Andrew provide allow people or enable people in our congregation to be extremely generous. So we will brag about that. We celebrate generosity, and to the extent that we help with that, we feel like we're doing our job. Next slide, if you could, please, Richard. This is our CJP team, and lastly, I just wanted to close with an invitation. If anybody would like to join us in doing this work, we would welcome your help. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Beloved, if you have had a vision during this time, go and share it and make space for the visions of others. If a spark has been lit in you, go and burn brightly and join your light with the light of others. If you desire change, go and live it and look for those who are working also for that change. Know that the fire of God's holiness burns brightly in you and is at work in the world, waiting for you.
Go in peace. Christ is with you.
Amen.